Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back to the Maverick News Channel. Great to have everybody here. Welcome back, Maverick family and new viewers. So much ground to cover tonight. Yes, we have it. We do have it. We have it here. We're ready to run it. The body cam footage of the Routh arrest. Yes, we have it. We will show it to you. We will open the phones again tonight. We will resume our discussion on this subject, as well as the resumption of Parliament in Canada, which is, of course, of extreme interest to many in Canada and maybe outside of the country, because Justin Trudeau is under so much pressure to call an early election, especially now that his supply and confidence deal, which is a fancy way of saying a coalition, a unity deal with the New Democratic Party, has fallen apart. Trudeau, with his minority government and a parliamentary system, has been relying on the NDP to prop up his government, but that agreement isn't in place anymore. And today, as Parliament resumed, the Conservative leader and the Prime Minister squared off immediately. And we'll bring you that exchange as well. So don't go away. There's a lot of ground to cover tonight, and you get to join the conversation, if you choose to, right here on the Maverick News Channel. We'll be right back.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight for freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are two iconic artistic designs to choose from, but there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech, free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Okay, so we do have the latest information on that alleged assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Authorities have arrested, as you know, Ryan Wesley Routh, a 58-year-old man, in connection with the incident, which took place at Trump's golf course in Florida. We do have the body cam footage. What we know so far is that Routh was apprehended following an alert by a Secret Service agent who spotted him with a rifle in the vicinity of Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. The arrest occurred after Routh fled the scene, but was stopped by law enforcement on Interstate 95 in Martin County, approximately 50 miles north of the golf course. So body cam footage released today shows the moment of Routh's arrest, highlighting the tense situation as officers approached his vehicle. Routh has been charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. These charges stem from his criminal history and the condition of the weapon found at the scene. Here's the body cam footage as promised.
Driver! Take 2 steps to your right! Take 2 steps to your right! Come back. Driver! Walk straight back! Keep walking! Keep that long.
Okay, you want to see that one more time? Let's run it one more time. It's of intense interest right now.
Driver! Take 2 steps to your right! Take 2 steps to your right! Come back. Driver! Walk straight back! Keep walking! Keep that long.
And that's the way it went down. So, interestingly, Routh's background reveals a complex character. He was an ardent supporter of Ukraine in its conflict against Russia, even attempting to join the fight, but was turned away for being too old. This has led to geopolitical discussions, with some Russian officials attempting to link Routh's actions to his support for Ukraine, though no direct connection has actually been established. The Secret Service's quick response, we're told, prevented any harm to former President Trump. As you know, we talked about that yesterday, and they have Secret Service agents working at least one hole ahead to clear the area before Trump makes his way forward on the course. He, of course, was golfing at the time, but was never in the direct line of sight of Routh. Trump himself has commented on the incident, attributing it to the heated political climate and expressing gratitude towards law enforcement for their swift action. He kind of threw unity aside and blamed the Democrats today for this second apparent assassination attempt. This incident marks, as I say, the second time that Trump has been targeted by a would-be assassin, assuming that's what was really going on here. The investigation is being investigated in that vein. And this, of course, happening within months and during the heat of this election cycle. It underscores the ongoing security concerns surrounding high-profile political figures like Trump and RFK Jr. and Harris. Interestingly, Elon Musk posted on X today. I did not see it, but I did read about it. A post that said something to the effect of, why aren't they even attempting to assassinate Biden and Harris? He later removed the post. I'm paraphrasing. I may not have the wording quite correct, just to let you know, for the sake of accuracy. I may not be entirely accurate on that because I didn't see the actual post. I just know that it was up for a short time. So this investigation is continuing, with authorities looking into Routh's motives and any potential accomplices or influences behind the alarming event. So stay tuned, folks. We will continue to follow this. And tonight, the Democrats want the Republicans to have him. And the Republicans, the MAGA crowd, they want the Democrats to have this guy. Nobody wants him. And everybody, it looks like, in one way or another, has had him. And they don't want him now. So they're like, oh no, he's a Democrat. Oh no, he's a Republican. He did make videos. He did go to Ukraine, I guess. He was in that Newsweek video. He was, there have been reports of him possibly having an ongoing struggle with mental health issues. That wouldn't surprise me, given what just happened. But much of this still needs to come out in a real way. So that's where we're at tonight with Ryan Routh. We'll go to the phones here so that you guys can weigh in on the conversation as well. And we're going to start talking as well tonight about what happened in Parliament today, because in Canada, that's a huge story. Trudeau, so low in the polls, so unpopular. There's so much excitement around the prospect of a possible early election. We just can't let this slide today because school's back. And so is Parliament. Stay with me. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call now, 1-519-401-1373. One 519-401-1373. Exercise your right to free speech. That's 1-519-401-1373. That's 1-519-401-1373. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. Okay. So the Secret Service says Routh did not fire shots at Donald Trump. We have a clip. Brace yourself, buckle up, here we go. News conference, Secret Service. This is the acting Secret Service director commenting on this today. Here it is.
The agent, who was visually sweeping the area of the sixth screen, saw the subject armed with what he perceived to be a rifle and immediately discharged his firearm. The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent. With reports of gunfire, the former president's close protection detail immediately evacuated the president to a safe location. The protective methodologies of the Secret Service were effective yesterday.
So, got that. The other interesting thing is there is a photo circulating, I should say, online of Routh's house. Here it is here. I've got it. Okay. So some people pointing to this, and they're taking particular note of a bumper sticker on a truck in his driveway. So here's the house. I guess this is in Hawaii, where Ryan Routh lives. And if you look very carefully, there's a Biden-Harris bumper sticker on this truck. I don't think that should surprise anyone, given that he, the statements, the things he has been saying online. I don't think that's that surprising. But there's this ongoing effort by both sides now to say that the other side owns this guy, or that he's with the other side. So people pointing this out are obviously pro-Trump. People on the other side, well, they're saying things like, well, let me show you. This guy, he's got the plague. Yeah, he's like, oh no, he's not a Democrat. He's a Republican. Oh no, he's not a Republican. He's a Democrat. Well, this guy, he says he's a Republican. You can decide.
Morning coffee. Morning. Time for morning coffee with Texas Paul. Hope your coffee is as good as mine. Yeah, Donald Trump's going to take your guns away if you elect him, and this is why. This Ryan Routh guy voted for Trump in 2016. He turned into a never Trumper. He was a Republican. They're trying to say he's a Democrat because they say he supported Tulsi Gabbard. That's not a Democrat. Democrats don't support Tulsi Gabbard. That's why she ain't a Democrat no more. That's why Joe Manchin's not a Democrat anymore. That's what he supported Vivek Ramaswamy. That's not a Democrat. The guy they're putting this Act Blue page up with donations. Yeah, the guy on the Act Blue page worked for Jones Day, Rivas and Pogue. He was a Democrat lawyer. That's not the shooter, you dumbass. That's a Democrat lawyer. That's why they're taking that page now, because they're defaming a lawyer. And the Russian trolls are creating new accounts for this Ryan Routh guy. One of them's disgusting, trying to say he's a member of the LGBTQ plus community and loves Democrats, and just a brand new account they're all over the place now. They've made dozens of them that are fake accounts. His real social media account shows that he's a Haley Ramaswamy supporter. You guys created these people. You told them to go out and buy assault rifles. You told them to use Second Amendment solutions. That's why Trump's going to take your guns away. Duh.
Yeah, here we go again, folks. Conspiracy theories of conspiracies, and conspiracies of theories, and theories that aren't necessarily conspiracies, politically motivated posts, fake social media accounts, fake this, fake that, who knows what's real anymore. And for those of you who think that Russia isn't involved in this stuff, then why are they involved? If they're not involved, why are they sticking their nose in? Look at this. Well, I'm going to ask in the chat, what do you think Russia, and this is for people who haven't already looked, what do you think Russia, the Russian media, what do you think that what are they instantly pushing with this? What are they going to say? Right off the hop. Anybody? I'll give you a minute here too. I've got so many tabs open. I can't find where I need to be. Okay. Anybody? Let me take a look here. I'm over on Rumble now. Anybody? Gun controls, Rick? No, that's not what they're talking about. Instantly. This is what I heard, and I'll show you. Of course, it was the CIA instantly. I don't know. Okay, I'm just saying. And if the Russians, why do they care? Because I guess the whole world cares. Anyway, I'm just saying. All right, that you got to be pretty naive to think that foreign governments, not just the Russians, other governments too, they're going to throw their 2 cents worth in and throw a little fuel on the fire here and a little fuel on the fire over there. Here, I'll show you. Here's Sputnik. And what's the headline? with this, what's the headline going to be? Of course, this is the CIA. There it is. CIA veteran Ukrainian connection in Trump's assassination attempt cannot be ignored. Yeah. Well, we saw the video. The guy did go to Ukraine. He said he was involved in trying to recruit people to go and fight for Ukraine. It was all strange. And yet yesterday I said it was all just so convenient, isn't it? Isn't it just so convenient? Right here in the middle of this election, Occam's razor. Whatever appears to be, the truth should be right in front of you most of the time. And I think it probably is, but we need more information. It's just getting to the point. There's so much of this stuff going on in the U.S., or has gone on and continues to go on, that it's just becoming predictable now. This is actually a really major story when you think about it. And yet it just doesn't even have half the energy that the last assassination attempt on Trump had. It's just becoming, oh, well, it's another one, I think. It's just another one in the mix. People, of course, are interested in it. It just has a different energy in terms of the news cycle this time. So I'm just saying, everybody wants somebody to, it's not that people don't want him. It's worse than that. They want the other side to have him, or they want, their adversary or their enemy to have him. So Russians want the CIA to have him. Probably the CIA wants, the Russian Secret Service to have him. The Democrats want the Republicans to have him. The Republicans want the Democrats to have him. I don't know. I just don't know. What do you guys think? Let's take a little break and we'll see if we can go to the phones. You can call in live and join the conversation at 1-519-401-1373. And yeah, we should also move on. We can come back to this, actually, this subject, if you would like to. But we should really talk too about the resumption of Parliament today in Canada, because we are up here in Canada, and that's a huge story for Canuckistanians. So stay with me. We'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit before we go to the phones or get into anything like that. We better touch on this story first about the resumption of Parliament in Canada. So it was a significant day up on Parliament Hill as the House of Commons resumed operations. This session happening amidst a backdrop of political upheaval here in Canada. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, stepping into the House under intense scrutiny today and pressure. The recent collapse of the supply and confidence agreement with the New Democrats, led by Jagmeet Singh, has left Trudeau's Liberal government in a precarious position, as I'm sure you are all aware. So this deal, which had been in place since March 2022, was intended to provide stability by ensuring the NDP support on crucial votes. However, Singh's decision to end this pact has introduced a new level of uncertainty and suspense, potentially accelerating the timeline for a federal election. The atmosphere in Ottawa today has been charged, with anti-Trudeau protesters already gathering on Parliament Hill, signaling the public's discontent, or at least a vocal segment of it. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has not wasted any time, declaring his intent to push for a non-confidence vote at the earliest opportunity. This move could theoretically topple the government, leading to an election sooner than the scheduled date in October of 2025. A lot of people think Jagmeet Singh will hang on and continue to support the government in one fashion or another in order to get his pension, which he would be eligible for if he goes the distance all the way to October of 2025, meaning we're in for another year of Justin Trudeau at the helm. I'm not so sure that's going to happen. I have been saying probably not, because Singh would actually have that around his neck as a political liability heading into an election if he waits until the very end and doesn't support the Conservatives to trigger an election. If he goes early, that won't be an issue. If he waits all the way till the end, he'll be criticized for it, saying that he's really just in it for the money. His riding is safe, I would say. He will be reelected where he is. So I don't think it's an issue. He'll go early, in my view. I think we could have an election before the snow flies. And if we don't, I think we'll have an election in the spring. That's my prediction, just based on what I'm seeing and the amount of intense pressure that we have on Trudeau right now. Now, let's pick up the exchange today in the House of Commons. I believe we can pick it up right about here. Yeah, okay. Here we go. All right. We've got Poilievre up first. This is we got right into it in the House of Commons today with Trudeau and Conservative leader Poilievre squaring off, and Poilievre wasted no time.
Questions orales. Oral questions. None of have.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
And here we go.
For 9 years, the Liberal bloc has put a tax on your food, causing your groceries to be more expensive, doubled the cost of housing, and doubled the national debt. With the full support of the bloc has voted over 200 times to keep this party and this government in power. And now they want to increase your taxes even more. Isn't it time for you to have the chance to choose a new common sense government that will cut taxes, build housing, fix the budget, and stop crime? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the opposition leader had spent any time speaking to Canadians this summer, he would realize that Canadians want solutions. They want solutions to the challenges they face as families with fighting climate change. They want to know how Canada is going to position itself for the economy of the future. But the opposition leader is only interested in his own interests, not Canadians' interests. Meanwhile, we on the other side of the House here will continue to work to deliver the goods to Canadians to build a stronger economy for all. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, what Quebecers see is the biggest expansion of the federal government in Canadian history, a centralizing government and a costly one at that. And all this with the full support of the Bloc, which has voted some 200 times for inflationary spending, centralizing spending, and bureaucracy, which totals $500 billion. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers have the right to have a common-sense government that will cut taxes, build housing, fix the budget, and stop crime now. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. What we're doing, Mr. Speaker, when we announced in Quebec a significant investment in Telesat to create good jobs in Quebec, which will have an impact on productivity and national security in Canada and all around the world, the Conservative response was to call their friend Elon Musk to say, no, you can't send those jobs here to Canada. Instead, you should be giving your money to American billionaires. We find that completely far-fetched. We are here to invest in Quebecers for the future.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
After 9 years of NDP Liberals, taxes up, costs up, crime's up, time's up. And now he wants a 300% carbon tax hike, all the way up to 61 cents a litre. Why not let Canadians choose a common-sense Conservative government that will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime now?
There it is, the call for an election.
The opposition has spent any time listening to Canadians over the summer, he would have heard that they need solutions. They need answers to the challenges they're facing. That's not what he's offering. Indeed, he doesn't care about Canadians. He just cares about himself and his own political interests. We're going to keep focused on doing the things that he refuses to do, whether it's him voting against dental care, whether it's him voting against child care, whether it's him voting against a national school food program. We're going to still deliver the things that matter to Canadians, like food in kids' bellies, childcare spaces, and supports for seniors to go to the dentist, many of them first time in years.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Children are hungrier than ever after 9 years of the NDP Liberals. In fact, 25% of them are not getting enough food, and we now know why. A carbon tax fraud has been perpetrated by this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, who kept secret Environment Canada documents that showed that the carbon tax was blowing a $25 billion hole in our economy. Our economy per capita is smaller today than it was 10 years ago, during which time the American economy has grown by 19%. Instead of a reckless plan to hike the tax to 61 cents a litre, why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Here's a news flash for the Conservative leader. Climate change costs money. And what would cost the most money to Canadians at all is his do-nothing climate plan. News flash. When the Toronto subway gets flooded, it costs money. News flash. When forest fires hit communities across this country, it costs Canadians money to rebuild. When you have droughts that hit farmers and agriculturists across this country, it costs money. What doesn't cost money is putting money in 8 out of 10 of the money of Canadians' pockets with the Canada Carbon Rebate to support their families and fight climate change.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister just proved my point. His tax doesn't stop floods, fires, or droughts. All it does is create more poverty. This also from a high-flying, high-taxing, high-carbon hypocrite who flew 92,000 kilometers in a fuel-guzzling, tax-funded private jet while he taxes single moms and seniors for heating their homes. Now, carbon tax Carney wants him to put the tax back on home heating oil. Will he reject carbon tax Carney and instead allow Canadians to choose to axe the tax?
Trudeau said he was eager to engage Polyev.
to be very mindful of their language that they use in referring to other members in this House. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Today.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader doesn't believe in climate change, and that's why he has a do-nothing plan to fight climate change. It would cost Canadians money and challenge the future we're building for our kids. Our plan, with the Canada Carbon Rebate, puts more dollars in 8 out of 10 Canadians' pockets right across the country, supports the middle class and people working hard to join it, while delivering the kinds of investments that are going to grow our economy and reduce emissions at the same time. This is a responsible climate plan that fights climate change and supports Canadians. He wants to do nothing. He wants to hurt Canadians.
L'honorable député de Belleuil-Chambly.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, allow me first of all to wish a warm welcome to everyone. Welcome back here to all of us.
This is the leader of the bloc, Québécois.
It's a by-election in La Salle Aymar Verdun today, and I'd like the Prime Minister to explain to retired people aged 65 to 74 in that riding why their pension checks are 10% lower than retirees who are 75 and over. This is a horrible form of discrimination, and they're entitled to know why. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we did recognize that seniors 75 and over have higher costs and often lower savings. So we've increased investments for them. But what I don't really understand, Mr. Speaker, is that the Bloc, which claims to be concerned about people of that age group, those 65 and over, why did they vote against dental care for those tens of thousands of seniors all across Canada who've recently been able to get dental care paid by the federal government, and the Bloc voted against it? They don't care about seniors in the Bloc.
They wouldn't have introduced that dental plan if it wasn't for the NDP. They were resistant to it prior to its introduction.
To language that's much more clearly parliamentary. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, it's easy to get the Prime Minister confused. I'm talking about a jurisdiction that is exclusive to Quebec, that the federal government has encroached upon. He also said that Anglophones in Quebec couldn't get health care services in English the same as Francophones. That's false. So I would ask him explicitly to recognize that he misled.
Okay, so let's just pull out of that because we're not into the nitty-gritty there anymore. Let's take a quick break. Again, if anybody wants to call in, you can at 519-401-1373. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We have John Scotty Rimby on the line from out in Alberta. How are you tonight, Sir John?
I'm wonderful. I'm just on my way into Calgary on the luxurious Red Arrow.
The Red Arrow. Tell us about that.
The Red Arrow. It is about a 50-seat passenger Trevo motor coach. Yeah, headed down to Calgary to do some oil business. So it's all good news, guys.
Well, that's cool. So today Parliament resumed, and we just played this exchange between Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, Prime Minister Trudeau, Polyev calling Trudeau out, why don't you let Canadians go to the polls? He's talking about, the carbon tax. Of course, he wants to run the election on the carbon tax issue. Obviously today there was nothing that was going to happen that would trigger a vote of confidence, which would potentially lead to an election. It's just the first day back. But what do you think, John? Are we likely to see an early election, or are we still going the distance all the way to October 2025?
Oh, Rick Maverick, we're keeping our fingers crossed in Alberta. We definitely, Western Canada, love to see an early election. Absolutely, without question. Jagmeet Singh's been in too long, and Trudeau's been in too long too. Yeah, we gotta see them go to. We gotta see an election. I mean, enough's enough.
Yeah. I know that a lot of people are itching for it. And today there were protesters out there. What's the mood like, do you think, in the country? And the reason I ask is as much as we sit here and say this, there is a poll out today that says the majority of Canadians don't want an election right now. So that seems contradictory to me. I think Canadians do, largely, so I don't know if the poll is accurate. What do you make of that?
I think everybody out west has been itching for an election for 2 years now, and I got a buddy sitting beside me here, Rick from Ottawa. Yep, he's riding down here with me. Yep. Oh, he's in Pierre Poilievre's home riding.
Oh, is that right?
From Ottawa here.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I'll throw him on the show here in a minute. But
sure, yeah.
Yeah, but no, Western Canada, we've been itching to go to election for 2 years. On a side note, Rick, did that black speaker, did he not get turfed? Did he not get fired? I thought he got fired a while ago because he was in all that Liberal riding trouble. Am I kind of out of sync on that?
No, he's still there.
Yeah, but I thought he kind of got fired. I guess not, eh?
No. I think you're kind of confusing your stories.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm riding right on the back of the Red Arrow luxury Prevost, and I ran into a guy here from Ottawa.
Okay.
He's out here on business, and he's just telling me now he's in Pierre Poilievre's home riding. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, can we talk to him?
Yeah, I can put him on the phone. Do you want to go right on the show? This is Maverick News. Okay, yeah. Oh, I know Maverick. Hello.
Hello, how are you tonight?
Good. My name's Nick Onion.
Well, great to have you on the program.
Thank you.
What are you thinking? Are we likely to have an early election with resumption of Parliament today? It's top of mind for everyone. What do you think?
I would absolutely love if we did. I personally don't think it's going to happen. I want it to happen. I don't think it'll happen. But man, oh man, we need it. We need to get rid of Trudeau so bad.
What are your main concerns? Polyev wants, an election fought on the carbon tax issue, but is that what you are most concerned about, or do you have other concerns?
It's a concern of mine. It's not the highest priority. We need jobs, man. We need jobs, lots of jobs. Everybody needs to be working.
Yeah.
Everything's so good when everybody's working. And just he's right when he says axe the tax. We need to be axing the tax. We're paying too much nowadays. There's no give.
Yes, and I'm seeing these 10 cities.
Been to a grocery store recently? These 10 cities are heartbreaking, man. It's like I talk with the homeless people. I know them by my first name. People without houses, right? Like they're people just like you and me who are just one payment away. That's all it takes nowadays, and it shouldn't be like that. This isn't a third world country. It
is heartbreaking. That's the right word. I've never seen anything like this.
No.
I mean, I live in a small city myself, live like 50,000, 60,000 people. And we have 10 cities in this community.
And it was never like that. I'm 33 years old. I don't remember ever seeing it.
No, never. When I moved to this town, just over 25, 30 years ago, losing track of time. There wasn't a homeless person on the street. Now we have tent cities.
Yeah,
It's
man. Yeah, and
ridiculous.
it just shouldn't be like that. And these aren't all people who don't want to work or have mental illnesses. All of them. No, that's not the case. It's simply, bills pile up, and you're one payment away from, not being able to make rent. You're too embarrassed to ask for help, whatever, pride, and it's just like, and nobody else has money to lend. It doesn't take much, man.
Now you're in Pierre Poilievre's riding, is that correct?
I am, yeah, back in Ottawa, yeah.
So give me your impression of him, because a lot of people say they want to vote for him, but they're concerned, they don't necessarily trust him. What are your thoughts?
Well, see, growing up, it was always a very liberal community, which I think it's changing now, which is awesome. But what ends up happening is, because I know a lot of new people are in that riding, and that's not by accident. Same out here in Calgary. Trudeau, we get a whole bunch of people, and he plops them in places that he sees strategic, right? Everybody knows he does that, and it boils my blood. And we just need, we need to actually listen to what Pierre Poilievre's saying. And another thing I will say, actually, one thing I want to see is, I want to see more getting along between all the parties. I watch CPIC on, that's probably the channel I watch. I'm not the most interesting guy in the world, but I watch CPIC probably the most when I'm up at camp working. And I hate seeing these pointless arguments, but even Pierre Poilievre's guilty of it sometimes. Just be done with that. No more hooting and hollering. Just everybody get along and work towards making it better for all Canadians. That's what we need.
Yeah, man, if we could, that's exactly, a lot of people say that they hate Trudeau and they want him gone. I pity him. I feel bad for him in a way, because he has to endure the wrath of the people now because he's so unpopular. And I really don't want him to fail. I want him to succeed so the country can succeed. I want the government to succeed so we all succeed. But my goodness,
and that's
the division.
what we've gotten away from. Like, everybody's more prone to arguing, if it's, they're going to say no just because other groups said yes. Well, that's not very productive, is it? I want and when we're picking our MPs, we really need to be like, I reach out to my MP frequently and I go, hey man, even though I don't see eye to eye with him on a lot of things, I go, hey man, I'm in your riding, and I think of this, right? I think this, please, this is my opinion. You're representing me. Please.
Yeah.
Remember this. Yeah. So all the bickering in the House of Commons should just, people really need to get rid of that. So we're coming up on my stop here.
Okay. What do you think about Trump?
Trump, I don't like. I like Trump. I like Trump. Now I heard somebody tried to kill him recently.
Again, for a second time.
I haven't been watching the news much, so I don't know.
Yeah. At his golf course, they arrested a guy with a gun.
So somebody shot him, or
no, he didn't get a shot off, but they arrested him.
I'll have to. I've been up at work, so I'll have to do some watching on whatever happened there.
Yeah,
and I do love Alberta oil. It's kept me working for a long time, so let's keep that Alberta oil healthy.
Yes, sir. Yeah, keep the economy
absolutely.
Coming along there.
Get back to my friend here.
All right, thank you. Great talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, great talking to you. Thank you.
Take care.
Hey, there you go, Rick. Hey, just you never know who you meet on the Red Arrow.
Yeah, that was a fantastic call. Thanks for bringing him on, John. That was great. That was a great.
I just heard when I got on the bus he was from Ottawa here, and I thought, hey, the super guy out here, he's making a good living in the oil camps in Alberta, and again, a lot of wonderful people from around Canada, Quebec and Ontario come and work and earn a good living in Alberta.
Yes. So we
now on our Trump issue.
Yeah.
That guy, I guess he's 58 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a wingnut from North Carolina.
Yeah.
Lived in Hawaii. Up on 2 gun charges. One's from back as far as 2002, and this other one, I guess he had a stash of guns. And then the latest charges, he's filed serial numbers off the guns, but he looks like a real wacko, eh?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, a lot of strange things swirling around that guy. Went to Ukraine, wanted to fight there. I don't recommend anybody do that. It's a great way to die. I'm not in favor of people going. I don't really want the draft or anything like that either.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
Like Rick, is our man gonna make it into the White House without getting assassinated? Yeah. Is he gonna make it in and get our 270 electoral college? And because we need him in for Alberta, man, you just heard my friend from Ottawa, you know?
yes, yeah. Well, you know, it's the strangest election ever. It really is. Did you notice, speaking of Trump and strange things, and we were talking about RFK Jr. and what would happen if Trump were to be assassinated? Who would fill the role and actually be the candidate? Would it be J.D. Vance or someone else? And I threw RFK Jr.'s name out there last night. But you know the other weird thing, and this is again why I don't think RFK is a friend of Donald Trump at all. I don't think he's an ally in the way that people think he is. I don't think that he's an asset to the campaign. This whole dog eating thing, it started with RFK. And then it's been transferred over to Ohio, and I don't think we've heard the end of it, frankly. I really don't. And do you know what happened? Do you know what RFK said on election or debate night?
What was that?
He said he came out, went on Fox News, and actually said that Harris won the debate. Now, if this is a guy who's supposed to be supporting Trump and he was in the spin room as a surrogate to speak with media on behalf of Trump, then goes on Fox News and says that Trump lost the debate. I've got the clip here. You won't be able to hear it, but hang on a second. I'm going to run it for people. Yeah, and I'll tell you exactly.
Right, I think you're right on the money with that, Rick. With Vance and
I'm telling you guys, this RFK guy, Jr., he's an infiltrator. From everything I'm seeing, I'm just saying, look at this. This is what he said on Fox that night. Here we go.
Vice President Harris clearly won the debate in terms of her delivery, her polish, her organization, and her preparation. I think on substance, President Trump wins in terms of his governance, but he didn't tell that story. In fact, I think that Vice President Harris clearly won the debate
I mean, there it is. Okay, so he says Harris clearly won the debate in terms of polish, and what the heck was that? Like, that blows me away. This guy's supposed to be supporting Trump, even if he thinks that Harris won the debate. He's not supposed to say that. He's supposed to lie.
Well,
okay.
You know what it's called? It's called a Benedict Arnold is what it's called.
Wow. Now, I haven't endorsed any candidates, so I've got no reason to lie or take a position. Like, I think Harris won the debate, okay? But when you're RFK Jr. and you suspend your campaign to throw your support behind the other guy, the other candidate, you don't then go on the news after the debate and say your guy lost.
Exactly. Well, that's called a Benedict Arnold.
Why?
Cleaver in Trump's back.
My God. Like, with surrogates and friends like that, Trump doesn't need enemies.
No, absolutely.
Well,
like, you know, Rick, they say, keep your friends close, but your enemies even closer. And I guess that's what he's doing with Kennedy. Maybe that's a strategy.
But it's not a good strategy. You know, he shouldn't. No. In my opinion, he didn't look at this carefully enough. He didn't. I see why he welcomed Kennedy onto the stage and brought him in. But you know what? He's not an asset. That guy is a huge liability. He will potentially cost Trump the election.
It's a ticking time bomb. Time bomb.
Yeah, he's not.
Well, I got a final thought. We're getting off at the airport here, but
sure.
I'm glad you could talk to my new friend from Ottawa.
Yeah.
And hopefully he'll call in again. And final thought, Maverick news around the world. May God bless the United States of America and Canada, and we always pray for peace. Pray for peace, my friends around the world. We have a lot more in common with one another. Like my friend said from Ottawa, we have an awful lot more in common with one another than we do have our differences.
We do indeed. Thank you, John. Great call tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time, and thanks for bringing your friend on there too.
Rick, I'm always boots on the ground, Rimbey, Alberta, nosing around, trying to get another edge on a good story for Maverick News family.
Okay, sir. Stay safe
Cheers.
out there. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Adios.
Cheers.
All right. You can call in at 1-519-401-1373. Join the conversation. Exercise your right to free speech.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay, Dragon's on the line. Hello, Sir Dragon.
What's up, Mavericks? How are you tonight?
So you called. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? To give you a little statistic, because I've been speaking of that on Rumble, but people on YouTube didn't heard about that or read about it. So I'm gonna make that for everyone. So I'm living with $800 per month. All right, and that's just to give you a statistic. I don't want people to cry on my back for that. It's just life, right? So I got $800 per month. I pay, say, 25% of my revenue as rent, and with, say, $500 something in my pocket, I got to feed myself, pay for internet, phone, and so on. All right, and clearly, even if I try to stick on the strict minimum, it's not even enough.
Yeah.
I got to, most of the time, buy my food in dollar stores, sometimes just to get around the corner, or mostly get into food banks, stuff like that. And I mean, I'm on welfare. Okay, it's a basic welfare that I have, so it's not much, for sure. But the thing is that for people that works their ass and do their due diligence as a citizen, as worker, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't even come up with, they have the same problem that I have in certain way. Even people that I know that live on the same basic income or even sometimes bigger income, but still say on welfare, on disability and such, that can afford everything, even if they have, say, a check of $1,500 per month.
Sure.
And they try. Some people I know try just to stick to the strict minimum. No drugs, no drink, just strict minimum. Food, shelter on your head, that type of thing. Yes. So that tells you pretty much how our country is not going good. And, well, I'm probably going to say that, but Poilievre, when he says that we need to come back to less taxes, be able to afford ourselves some homes, that we can afford ourselves some food, for our kids and so on. I mean, it's all there. You know?
Yeah.
He's right.
Yeah. Well, he wants to fight the election on the economy and the carbon tax. Other people focused on, some other issues. There's legislation in play, a bill, for instance, dealing with, the possibility of future pandemics and the response the government might take. I think that's an important issue as well, because I would not be in favor of a repeat of what we went through during the height of the pandemic, with lockdowns and so on. So there is a piece of legislation that is before the Senate right now. So that's something that they're not even talking about, that probably deserves some serious scrutiny, some real attention, and we'll be giving that some attention in the days ahead. But yeah, what do you think? Are we going to have an early election?
I'm pretty sure. Because everyone's pissed off about what's going on. Everyone's fed up with the Liberal government. So yeah, I think it's going to look good, I think. And I'm not sure. I know that one of the there's a partial in Montreal actually, which I'm not from that reading, so I'm not voting on this one. But I'm pretty sure that the guy representing Verdun in Montreal is going to be out of the question soon.
Yeah. So yeah, just to clarify for people, we have two by-elections happening tonight. One in Montreal, one in Winnipeg. The one in Winnipeg, the polls suggest it will be either a New Democrat or a Conservative that will likely win in that riding. In Montreal, the Liberals are hoping to hold that seat, but as Dragon just said, Trudeau is so unpopular, the Liberals are so low in the polls that they may even be in danger of losing that Liberal stronghold. So we'll have to see what happens. I'll try to bring you information on it if I can, but the polls in Winnipeg would still be open. They may be just closing in Montreal now. I'm not sure. They might be open for another hour, so I'll check. But we won't have the results tonight, I don't think, before we sign.
At this hour, polls is closed or about to close. So
yeah.
So
yeah. So
that just give you a perspective of how thing goes. Even for a guy from me, if you take that perspective on anyone who works or have, say, some good expense, you see where it goes, right? So
yes, yeah. And any thoughts on this assassination attempt on Donald Trump, or apparent assassination attempt, alleged?
Well, people think that it's probably a CIA or whatever. I don't think so.
Mm.
I think that Trump, the way sometimes he speaks with his heart, but has harsh words. For example, yesterday I had a conversation with a guy from Africa, Congo, I think, and he said something along the way that, well, Trump is kind of racist the way he speaks, so that's why he probably had the second attempt. That's what his wording. But I told him that, I asked him, why do you think that he's racist? And he says, because you know what he says about people from Africa or whatever, the loonies that come from there are not good people, stuff like this. So this is basically racism to them.
Yeah.
But I told him that the Western way to say things sometimes is we will exaggerate something. I will generalize the problem on everyone, but we have that say that goes along the way that if the hat fits for you, put it on your head. if you don't fit on what I just said, well, you're not part of that crowd kind of thing.
I love the way you take these colloquialisms, these sayings, and put your own spin on them because of your French background, right? I love it. You know, it's different to speak with you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well,
it's funny because you said if the hat fits, but the phrase is if the shoe fits, but you say the hat. I love that. It cracks me up because it's the language. Like if I tried to say this stuff in French, I couldn't because I don't speak anywhere near enough French to even attempt to speak it. So it's funny.
Because I kind of translated the French version because in French we say si le chapeau te fait. So basically it's a hat. If the hat fits to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, in English it's the shoes, so I kind of just messed up the English
yeah,
and
it's
the
funny.
French expression.
This is such a Canadian thing. It's hilarious. I love it. It's just so good. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, only on Maverick News that you're gonna have that little kind of thing.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, any final thoughts tonight, Dragon, before we move on? Because we have some other callers in the queue.
Well, I will say to everyone, please go to the poll when that time comes, because we will need it. Stay positive, like I say always, and don't always ingest freaking conspiracy theory because, well, it's going to just make you numb. Have a nice night, everyone. Love you all.
Okay, thank you, Dragon from Montreal. And we've got Joseph coming up here, so stay with me.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975. Free. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow. Maybe too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, and we have Joseph on the line. Hello from Detroit. How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Yes, I was not able to tune in for the first part of the show. As you know, I had a guest for my show. I was recording via Zoom 7 to 8, so yeah. I don't know what I'm in for, but I'm ready for anything, brother.
Well, I'm glad we could talk to you again tonight because you are on the U.S. side, and we have this new body cam footage showing the arrest of the would-be Trump alleged assassin, and a lot of weird stuff still swirling around that guy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
thoughts?
I'm dealing with all kinds of conspiracy theory stuff. Like, oh, he's pro-Ukraine, and he's a plant for that, and the CIA, and then others. Well, I said, if we want to go down the wild speculation, he did use an AK-47, so maybe he's actually a Russian agent, and all that Ukraine stuff was fake fraud, hacked stuff to set up and make it look like it's Ukraine when it's really Russia. It's like, I'm not saying one way or the other, but, can we just not go down this road where, like 50 days away from an election, it's the economy, stupid. Let's stick with stuff that can sway votes and not go off into loony speculation land.
Yeah. And there was a Russian, somebody from Russia, saying today that the guy was acting on behalf of Ukraine. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was Lavrov.
Well, you would expect Russia to say that, and you would expect the UK or Ukraine to blame Russia. So let's just not go there. We got 50 days. Let's talk with things that can sway votes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, whether they're involved, not involved, whatever. I mean, when I look over at RT right now, and the stuff on their site, I swear, U.S. Congress to hold huge UFO hearing. Like, this is the stuff they're focused on, right? Like, and yeah, okay, well, they're going to do that again. None of that stuff has been productive. Trump shooters, Ukraine links are U.S. concerns. Moscow. And who is it that's quoted on this today? Dmitry Peskov. Yeah. Saying that it's Ukraine. He was working on behalf of Ukraine, I guess.
Yeah, I think we can kind of be right in our thought that it leans definitely one particular way, the Harris bumper sticker and all that. But again, if we want to go down the road to nuttiness, I could say, well, that's all deep fake stuff to throw you off the fence.
Yeah, and I mean,
let's just not deal in that and deal in the stuff that can matter right now.
But see, it matters a lot. Yeah, that stuff.
Obviously, the assassination attempt matters, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but this stuff does matter a lot if there's focus on it, because this can have serious implications in terms of whether people support or don't support the war effort in Ukraine. You see what I'm saying? And that's why Peskov comes out and he talks about it, because they don't want people to support the war effort in Ukraine. They want the funding cut off. They want Trump to win, because Trump will cut the funding, likely, for Ukraine. On the other, potentially, maybe. We assume,
Yeah, they assume he will, because he talks, yes, I will try to bring this to an end. But also, they said Trump wanted to, Trump America first, is America alone and America only. No, he didn't pull all our troops out of Syria. He did not pull all our troops out of Afghanistan because the Taliban broke their word on the agreement that would have allowed us to pull troops. It was Biden that just cut and run and completely surrendered it. Also, Trump says a lot of things, but at the end of the day, he does want to be strong, but at the same time, obviously, we all want to avoid World War III. So, Trump has it's strategic ambiguity thing. You kind of want that, right? You don't really want them to know what you may or may not do.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly right. Even though he's seems to be saying these things, Trump himself, at the end of the day, if reelected, would he cut the funding? I don't know. I
I think he might cut some of it because, but again, I mean, he is a Reagan peace through strength guy, and just cut running and giving Putin anything and everything he wants is not peace through strength, and can lead Neville Chamberlainism style to war aggression. So Trump himself has said it. He's got to do it carefully in a way through strength that tells China, look, we're not being weak here. Don't think that if we do make some sort of deal, that means then you can move and we'll make a deal.
Yeah. So, and the dynamics have changed over there because you do have Ukraine on Russian soil now. You also have these long-range missiles coming into play. And while some people are saying, oh, that's for sure, they're going to drag us into World War III, I don't know. There are some people who can make a pretty convincing argument to suggest that that might actually lead to peace because it puts pressure on Putin. Because the people of Russia don't want a war on their soil. This was more than I think a lot of people were bargaining for. And so now suddenly things have changed. So he has a real incentive to get to the peace table now and bring this to resolution, which gives Trump a bargaining position too, in a much stronger way to get in there and do something to bring it to a conclusion.
Exactly, as I say, peace through strength, and as I said before, some leaders study The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and stupid leaders like a Biden studied The Art of Stupid by Sun Bung. So yes, we needed Ukraine to go into Russia, but is it sustainable? Is it holdable? Can they defensively keep supply lines open? Because indeed, if you're going to sue for peace, as I've said before, you have to have an ace or something up your sleeve going into this poker game.
Yeah. I mean, I've been getting information from various sources. There was concern that they might get flanked. But what I've seen is they seem to have fortified their positions. They're dug in. They seem to have enough stability to stick it out for months, maybe even until spring. So that's what I'm getting from the analysts, you know.
Yeah, that was my concern too. Because again, if indeed there is going to be any kind of brokered peace, you cannot have one side, Putin, come to the table with all the cards. It doesn't work. You may as well then just surrender at that point.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to have some chips on your side to go all in with. And I agree with you. The additional pressure now, Russian people can no longer be completely clueless to just the Russian propaganda they're getting. There are troops on their soil, and you've got to you don't want to target the other side's civilians, obviously, but you have to make them understand and feel it to some degree to put pressure internally on Putin. Or again, you've got to have something to go in with the bargaining table with, and like you said, the threat of the additional long-range missiles and the potential that, they could have something that could hit Moscow.
They're already hitting Moscow. They're already hitting Moscow with drones, and that has drones, and that has people concerned. That's and then these long range missiles. The purpose for those missiles is to target munitions storage facilities, energy supply lines, troops before they get into Ukraine, so that you're not just, as I watched a news conference with NATO officials yesterday. they were saying, it's more effective to attack the archer than just try to shoot down all the arrows, which makes absolute sense. And it is, under international law, legal for Ukraine to attack inside Russia because Ukraine was attacked by Russia. So, yeah, I think this, as much as people are freaking out or maybe even issuing statements of propaganda saying, we're just provoking Putin into a third world war. I think this might actually help bring peace.
Right, again, I agree with you. Again, it's the whole peace through strength.
Yep.
Weakness brings aggression by others. Weakness, it doesn't work. You've got to be in a position of strength. And yeah, drones are one thing. Missiles are carrying a lot more ordnance, can be a lot more destructive, and indeed strike a few energy, not necessarily plants, but if you strike I don't know what word, like a transmission zone or whatever, a utility center where the energy comes and then ferrets out, the centralization, I guess. Strike central distribution of energy points, then put the Russian people in the dark, and then they can no longer figuratively be in the dark about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to make them feel it to be able to demand they sue for peace.
Well, the Russians have suffered serious and tragic losses, just as the Ukrainians have. It's difficult at this point for people on either side to ignore and not realize the horror of all of this, because so many families in Russia have been affected by it, regardless of any attempts that may be ongoing to suppress information or to put a positive spin on things. They have a lot of wounded soldiers coming home, and they have a lot of body bags too. And that's the tragedy of all of this. So, all we can do is hope that we do get peace sooner rather than later for everyone.
Yeah, and the enemy has no reason to stop their aggression if it's all one-sided, if they're not really feeling it. So indeed, again, you've got to, art of war, make them feel it for any chance at peace, or they will walk all over them, and then they will walk all over somebody else, and then who's next?
I'm going to tell you something else that you're not going to hear anywhere else. The talk about whether the U.S. should approve the use of U.S.-made missiles, long-range missiles. That's an issue right now, but it won't be much longer. Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because they're going to start manufacturing missiles in Ukraine. And so they will soon...
As long as they're able to hold western part of Ukraine as relatively safe and calm. But of course, if the Russians get any wind of munition factories of any kind, or they'll hit them. They can easily hit them. But yeah, if they can make them, again, I agree with you.
Yep.
The strength, showing strength. We're not going to back down. We're not going to, surrender. We can hit you. We can hit Moscow with bigger ordnance, so you got to worry about it. Now it's time to come to the table. If you don't give them any threat of real escalation and retaliation ability, he's got no need to stop or to even talk peace talks.
And it's interesting to me to see Iran supplying 200 long-range missiles to Russia. We've been hearing from the pundits that Russia has this massive capability to produce munitions at will, and they have so much depth on their munitions. if they have so much available to them, why do they need to bring in 200 missiles from Iran? Aren't they self-sufficient? Aren't they a massive superpower with all of this stuff to go up against Ukraine? Why do they have to rely on Iran to give them long-range missiles? That strikes me as very odd and telling.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if indeed Putin had all that, he wouldn't take it from Iran just because then it shows potential weakness. It shows a potential dependency. Then you would argue, well, this is just because of our new, we would call Axis of Evil alliance. But so yeah, Russia, Iran will help us. We will help Iran. North Korea will help us. We will help North Korea. It's all just, part of being the Kumbaya alliance. But I agree with you. This is showing that things are not as rosy on the Russian side as the propaganda they keep trying to peddle is.
That's exactly right. It's not going as well for Putin as we have been led to believe by a lot of these online influencers.
Yeah. Well, and that's a lot of people thought, the domino theory again, right? To keep them tied up in the war and deplete their troops and their munitions and whatnot. Because we talked about this before, right? Drain them of their resources and everything. They can't then engage in World War III because they don't have enough to do it. But that's a two-way street. We, the United States, are way too dependent on other nations, including our enemies, for pieces and parts and things that make our munitions. So at the same time, we're depleting our own ability to defend ourselves if this blows up into, indeed, all through Europe.
But that being said, NATO, it's a lot of countries. There's a lot of economic power there. And there's a lot more depth than people realize. I mean, almost unlimited resources. Yeah. So as much as we're worried about it, on the Canadian side, yeah, we've depleted what we have. We don't have much up here. But
you said you're two rowboats already.
That's right. Two canoes. Yeah, and a couple of muskets. But
Ukraine would be completely screwed and would have been completely overrun if it wouldn't have been for the 4 years of Trump and peace through strength. People think, Trump is against giving them anything. They didn't pay attention to Trump sent them armaments and money while he was in office, trying to avoid and again, it wasn't a second invasion. They already invaded Ukraine through Crimea under Obama. Trump indeed was trying through strength and helping them to avoid a wider war, which then when Biden went in and released sanctions and they got oil-rich money again, they expanded the war. It wasn't a new invasion. It was an expansion of the existing already invasion and war. Yeah. So we got to avoid it from expanding more. And again, Trump told our NATO allies, look, you pony up the NATO contract level, 3%, 4% of GDP, whatever it is, contractually in NATO, that they haven't been doing. If he'd not have done that, all of Europe would be so under defended right now. Ukraine wouldn't have any resources to get from others because they weren't ponying up their part. So Trump said, look, if you don't do your part, you broke the NATO contract. We'll have no obligation to you then because you broke the contract. And, they stepped up.
Yeah, you can read it two ways, right? Like, you can read it as though Trump doesn't support NATO, but in reality, he got NATO to spend more and beef things up. So, and he's also the one who sent the Javelin missiles into Ukraine. He gave them those.
Yeah,
As he
Trump
said, Obama gave them
strengthened
blankets or whatever he said, but he gave them the missiles. It's true.
Yeah, Trump strengthened the NATO alliance despite the left-wing rumors. Again, America only and America alone. That is not what Make America Great Again stands for. It is America first, if and when we can, but it is not forget the rest of the world, because I'm sorry, this modern day and age, what happens there, like it or not, economically or militarily, does affect us. These oceans don't protect us anymore. There's these things called long-range bombers. There's these things called ICBMs. North Korea doesn't need ICBMs. The Japanese attacked the U.S. mainland. A lot of people still don't know this history. I go into it in my terror strikes book. They use balloon bombs. North Korea, Iran can use the weather, attach warheads to balloons and attack us.
And you know what? The NATO argument, as I have continued to think about this over the last couple of years, that the NATO justification for Russia's actions in Ukraine, in a way, it doesn't really hold water. And you know why? Because if he's really concerned about nukes, say in Ukraine, the U.S. and NATO countries have nukes right off the coast of Russia anyway, because of submarines. It's not like it was in the 60s.
Exactly.
No,
the whole NATO thing, I've said all along, is complete bull, you-know-what. Because, again, and people forget, it is Clinton that signed the Iraqi Liberation Act that made it U.S. policy we were going to remove Saddam Hussein. He didn't do it. GW did do it, though, the next administration. But it was Bill Clinton that signed the act into law that made it the policy we were going to remove him. Likewise, people like to forget inconvenient facts. It was Bill Clinton who made an agreement with Ukraine. You give up the nukes, let Russia come in and take their nukes out of your nation, back into Russia, and you will be NATO without being NATO signator. They gave up their nukes, and I said all along that was really stupid. They should have all been pointed at Moscow. 100 years of oppression and aggression by Russians onto Ukrainians, long before World War II, 100 years of it. I would have never given up the nukes. I would have told, Brezhnev, Putin, Gorbachev, anybody and everybody, these are aimed all at Moscow. You dare set one toenail onto our territory, we're launching them. But they gave them up, and that was Bill Clinton that did that. That's why we are in Ukraine now. It became policy. They became NATO signatories without the actual signature. That was Bill Clinton.
They had a thing called the Budapest Memorandum, which was an agreement by both the United States and Russia to respect the borders of Ukraine, recognize them, to keep that country neutral, so that both countries agreed they wouldn't go in there. But as you can see, at least one side said that no dice. But you know what it was, Joseph? It wasn't, in my view, after reviewing multiple times everything that's happened over the last couple of years, it was not so much, it was about joining NATO, but really the real reason they wanted to do more business with the European Union, not with Russia. It's about the money.
Yeah. and Russia again. Ukraine, the reason why they have been oppressing Ukraine for 100 years, that was the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. They want those growing areas. They don't need all of Ukraine, but they need growing areas to feed their population.
They want,
that's why they want that territory back.
They took Crimea because they wanted the port. They took Crimea because it's strategic. It gives them access to the Atlantic side of North America quicker. It also gives them access to the Suez Canal and then the Red Sea for their navy and for shipping, for merchant vessels coming out of Russia. Also, by controlling Crimea, it gives them control of the port, which gives them control over the grain shipments coming out of Ukraine, which is the breadbasket again. So
that's my point. It all goes, well, it doesn't all go back to food, but a lot of it goes back to food. But yes, they had an operating base out of Crimea, but they didn't have full control because that was still Ukrainian soil. They were operating on Ukrainian soil via agreement. They wanted full control of Crimea for the very reasons you stated. Unfettered control and access. No one else had to say what they did or could not do out of that base. And then again, the expansion of the war into other parts were to create the grain areas to be able to then freely ship through there, create that land bridge so there was complete and unfettered access to and from Crimea.
And the thing is,
land bridge.
and the thing is, before annexing, they say annex. It's a polite way of saying they took it over. They went in there with troops and took it over.
Hitler annexed a few places.
They invaded Crimea. Okay, so let's stop using the politically correct Russian language. I mean, everybody's worried about politically correct language. Talk about what Russia does. Yeah, it's politically correct language. We annexed it. No, you took it over. You confiscated it. Okay, you didn't pay for any of it. They just took it from the people, and it gives them direct control over the shipments through that port. And then up in the Donetsk, right, in the Donbass, that area, they want that because they took that because it's industrial area. The steel industries up there, the munitions factories, all kinds of the industrial capacity for Ukraine was up there. So they took that. And now those factories supply the Russian war machine. And then the last jewel in the crown is the farmland. And Russia goes in and confiscates that. That's a repeat of history, man. That's what Stalin did. He went in and took that farmland, and that's what led to the Holodomor, which was the mass famine, which resulted in millions of Ukrainians dying. And now you wonder why they're fighting there? That's why, folks, because they remember.
And that's exactly why they weren't fond of Hitler. They were just less fond of Russians. That's why they were happy when the Nazis came in to kick out the Russians. Not because they were anxious to see the Nazis. They were just so oppressed by Russians for so long. They would welcome anyone's help that would kick them out. People need to see this movie, Mr. Jones. People know of our own history, let alone that. See the movie Mr. Jones for exactly what we were talking about with Stalin and the famine right before World War II. That's why they wanted the Russians out so bad they made a deal with the devil.
And it was illegal to even talk about the Holodomor in Russia until like the 1990s, and even today you're not supposed to talk about it. But the documented evidence of that, which had been suppressed, came out after the fall of the Soviet Union, and we've seen now the actual documentation of that, which happened in the 1990s. And that's why today in Canada we have museums set up to make sure that that isn't forgotten. That piece of war history isn't forgotten, lest we forget. And yet people here never knew and still largely don't know. And don't tell me that it's a lie, because I've had pro-Russian people sit there and tell me that, oh no, Rick, you're wrong. That's a lie. The Holodomor is just a lie. No, I have met people who lived through it. I've spoken to them over the years. It's a real thing. It really happened. It really was. It was horrific, and millions of people did die from the famine, and also with the boot of Russian soldiers, Soviet soldiers of the day, on their neck, and they were killed. I can tell you a story about a little old lady that I met not too far from here at a community center years ago. She's long since passed on because she was so old when I talked to her about this, but it's a real thing, folks. I mean, I have empathy. I'd have nothing against. Yeah, they don't know people don't know the history.
They don't know, and they don't want to know.
They don't want to know.
Then they might have to actually think about it, and then they actually understand and have to care. It was not just a boot there. Again, with the famine, it was nearly really Russians genociding the Ukrainians.
And today I also see evidence of what I would say an attempt at a cultural genocide taking place there, which is why, people don't understand why the Ukrainians are showing videos of like their publishing facilities being bombed, right? It's because they value their culture and their language, and that's being destroyed. It's under attack as part of this war. That's also why you see this war between the Russian Orthodox Church and the Ukrainians, okay? Because there's a lot of history of Russian-speaking people sort of being moved into Ukraine historically, especially during the Soviet era. I can go on about this stuff, but people don't know the history at all. And I have nothing against Russia, and I didn't want the war to start to begin with. And I didn't think that they should be talking about joining NATO, because that also, in my view, is on the Western side, potential violation of the Budapest Memorandum, just as having Russian troops come in the other way is a violation of that. So Ukraine should be neutral, in my view. I want it to be a neutral country. That means the U.S., the NATO, they got to get the hell out of there. Russia's also got to get the hell out of there. But the problem is Russia hasn't taken off. They haven't moved out of there. And when RFK Jr. says in his video that Ukraine, or that the Russians were started to remove their troops in, I think it was 2022, when they had that tentative agreement, peace deal, that's just not true. They did not. They didn't move any troops out of there, ever. They didn't do that. They repositioned some troops. They did not pull out a single soldier, not one. That's not true. And there again is why RFK Jr., in my view, shouldn't be anywhere near the White House, because he doesn't know or he's lying, one or the other. But either way, what he says is dangerous, because when you're in a position where you're potentially presidential material, you have to be very careful about everything you're saying. You better damn well be accurate.
Right. Well, what you're talking leads me to chicken or the egg. Like you said, they purposely invaded with positioning civilians in. Now, it wasn't always a military invasion, but like you said, settling Russians in there. Now, Putin, one of his other talking point excuses, same as Hitler, I'm just taking land of Russian-speaking people to protect the Russian-speaking people who didn't belong there in the first place.
Yeah, and it's not that they didn't so much belong there, because they've been there for quite a while. So, but the reason that was going on, that the narrative that was spun up was Ukrainian the Ukrainian army was shelling their own people for no reason. That's what we were told. No, it's because Russia was arming rebels in the Donbass area and fomenting a civil war with separatists who were largely Russian speaking.
Yeah, like you said, they were arming separatists, infiltrators, Russian plants, and the Ukrainians were attacking the separatists, the Russian loyalists. They weren't attacking Ukrainians.
The whole time, and the whole time flipping it around, saying it was that everything was the Americans' fault, that it was a CIA-led coup. The whole time they were arming the rebels, the separatists, all up in the Donbass, and making sure that they had plenty of firepower to keep their little civil war going. And then he let that brew and fester and become worse and worse until and he actually did send soldiers in there, Russian soldiers, which was also an illegal invasion. They just didn't have the insignias on. And those troops have since been absorbed into the Russian military. I'm talking about the separatists now and the rebels who were armed by the Russians. And that's what the Minsk agreements were about. The Minsk agreements were, there was Minsk 1, Minsk 2. And if Russia wasn't involved, if Russia wasn't arming any of those rebels, and they said they lied about it, and they said, oh no, it's not us, we're not arming anybody. Yeah, they were the whole time, and they were sending Russian soldiers in there, and that's why, who are the signatories on the Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 agreements? Ukraine and Russia. Why? Because Russia was directly involved. It wasn't about shooting or shelling their own people. It was about shelling Russian soldiers and Russian-backed separatists and rebels who were trying to overthrow the government. Okay, that's what it was really about. It's just that it wasn't clear.
Yeah, but no one wants to know any of this stuff. That's part of the problem. But they just want to be able to leap to conclusions. The Putin talking point propaganda, because of personalities, so they can be so anti-Biden, they got to be pro-Putin. That's not a principled position.
And I have to admit, the wool was pulled over my eyes for a while because I wasn't well versed enough in it, and I was buying a lot of what was being fed. Some of the talking points that were being fed to me by people that I thought were trustworthy, people that were supposed to be learned, people who were supposed to be experts, people who were misrepresenting themselves, I would say. And no. But you see, I'm a journalist, and I keep digging. I'm always looking, and I'm always learning. And I know some of my history. And I'll tell you this: over the last 2.5 years, I've had one hell of an education.
Yeah, again, but you're willing to. Most people are not. They just want to buy in emotionally for one reason or another.
Yep.
Against Ukraine because, again, Biden is helping. Again, Trump sent money and equipment also to try to avoid the expansion of the war. But no. We can't talk about that because then it equates a little bit of both Trump and Biden together, and we can't do that, right? It's got to all be emotion. We just got to be so anti-Biden. We got to be anti-Ukraine now, too.
And
you're being anti-Trump then also.
And you know what, Joseph? If you want real lasting peace, there's only one way to get there. It has to be through truth. If you want something other than lasting peace, just follow the lies. So that's what I'm trying to bring people here is real balanced truth. And I hope that's what we've been able to do a little bit more of tonight.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really think you wanted to talk to me to talk about Ukraine, but we just kind of went there.
Yeah, no, it's a great conversation. And that's why I love talking to you, because you know your history. You do know this stuff. And You're well versed in it, so I'm grateful.
And it's all dragged up because of this clown that was going to take a shot at Trump. Again, his loyalty seems to be with Ukraine, but again, that doesn't mean. But again, is he a Russian plant trying to make it look like pro-Ukraine or Ukrainian trying to make it look like Russia? Again, we don't really know, so let's not get caught up in that.
Yeah, that's right. We need accurate information, and of course, there's just all these different theories and conspiracies swirling around, and oh my God, of course that's what's happened, right? And it's happening because different people, different sides, different governments, different organizations, different political parties, they have different objectives. So they're trying to exploit the situation, make use of the crisis. Don't let it go to waste.
Well, of course, Trump kind of helped fuel a little bit of this because his promise to RFK Jr., he promised before to release JFK files. And he got them to release some, but he knuckled under and allowed a lot of redaction still. Now, this time he's talking about full release. Promising to RFK for his support, part of the quid pro quo is, I will release this. So a lot of people are now saying, well, the CIA killed JFK. Now, they may or may not have been involved in all that, but there's a lot of people who they would say have a vested interest in trying to still keep this secret, even though anyone and everyone involved then would be dead. So that fuels the CIA is involved in killing Trump to keep the JFK stuff still secret. And again, unless if anyone has a shred of even circumstantial evidence, we might logically say, well, that kind of sort of makes sense, but there is zero evidence to support any of that, at least not yet.
Well, sir, I think that's a great spot to wrap it up for tonight. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, thanks for happy to, come on again. Call anytime, brother. So if I'm not recording for my own show, I'm generally just sitting here watching TV, so happy to talk anytime.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Joseph Leonard from Detroit. Just tell people how they can find your work and buy your book, too. Terror Strikes.
Oh, yeah. Well, the easiest thing is probably, obviously Amazon or josephmleonard.us is my author site. Terrorstrikes.info is my primary book site. And Joseph M. Leonard, it looks French Quebec. It's not Leonard, it's Leonard without an O. But, yeah, don't Google me because you're not going to find much. But if you DuckDuckGo me, you can actually find stuff. Being a conservative for so many decades and writing about conservative things, I am indeed one of those that Google suppresses the results. Unless if you're willing to scroll down 50 pages, you're not going to find anything about me except for my book, because Google won't suppress that, because then they're messing with Amazon, who pays them lots of ad revenue money. But you won't find my personal stuff. You can find my book there.
All right. Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you again soon. Maybe even tomorrow.
Right,
who knows what tomorrow will bring.
Love you.
Take care. See ya. Bye. Okay, folks. And we will wrap it up there tonight. A couple of people called in prior to that, but we're not going to be able to get to those calls tonight. I do apologize, but we'll probably do another call and probably tomorrow, because I think these subjects will probably still be at the top of the news cycle, and they warrant call-ins, I think, so that you guys can join the conversation. Again, like, share, subscribe. Please subscribe to Rumble. We need your help over there. If you haven't, please hit the thumbs up. That would really help us. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps boost us in the algorithm and to get around some of that shadow banning that takes place. Thanks for keeping an open mind as I present various sides of these issues, and especially this issue in Ukraine and the issue in Gaza too. I'm trying to present things from a balanced, actual, truthful perspective as much as I can, and I appreciate you guys being tolerant and open-minded so that you are always open to different perspectives on these things. So thank you for that. But that's why you guys are Mavericks, because we're here to pursue the truth. That is the only way we're going to get back to freedom. And our quest for truth and freedom will continue tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Maverick News Channel, where we have the antivirus programs for your mind. See you tomorrow on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.